It's actually happening. Israel has just agreed to a ceasefire with Hezbollah that went into effect at 4 a.m. this morning. I guarantee you, though, that this ceasefire is not what you think. I'm Josiah Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. So the rumors about a ceasefire happening very soon were actually true. Reports came out around 5 p.m. last night saying that a ceasefire was about to be agreed to and that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would make a statement to the press at 8 p.m. last night. At 8 o'clock, Bibi gave his statement on the ceasefire. Now, I think a lot of people were wondering what the details of the ceasefire would actually be, including Israelis, because there wasn't a lot of information that was given out by the Israeli government beforehand on the terms of the agreement. Now, Netanyahu's speech was 10 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole speech for you, read the whole speech, but I'm going to give you a few of the key points that he made in that speech about the ceasefire. Something that Netanyahu made very clear at the beginning of his speech was that this ceasefire does not mean the end of the war per se. It's not a permanent ceasefire.
אזרחי ישראל, הבטחתי לכם ניצחון ונשיג ניצחון. נשלים את חיסול החמאס, נשיב את כל חטופינו, נבטיח שעזה לא תהווה עוד איום על ישראל, ונחזיר את תושבי הצפון בבטחה לבתיהם. המלחמה לא תסתיים עד שנשיג את כל יעדיה, ובכלל זה עד שלא נשיב את תושבי הצפון בבטחה הביתה. ואני מבקש לומר לכם, זה יקרה.
So then Bibi gave some details about the ceasefire agreement in Lebanon, a little bit further down in his speech. He said,
ולכן אזרחי ישראל, הערב אביא לאישור הקבינט מתווה להפסקת אש בלבנון. משך הפסקת האש תלוי במה שהתרחש בלבנון. בהבנה מלאה עם ארצות הברית, אנחנו שומרים על חופש פעולה צבאי מלא. אם חיזבאללה יפר את ההסכם וינסה להתחמש, אנחנו נתקוף. אם הוא ינסה לחדש תשתיות טרור בסמוך לגבול, אנחנו נתקוף. אם הוא ישגר רקטה, אם הוא יחפור מנהרה, אם הוא יכניס משאית עם טילים, אנחנו נתקוף. כן, אני שומע את הטענה, שאם ניכנס להפסקת אש, לא נוכל לתקוף ולא נוכל לחדש את המלחמה. אני מזכיר לכם, זה בדיוק מה שאמרו לי, אבל בדיוק. כשעשינו את הפסקת האש בעזה לצורך שחרור חטופינו. אמרו שלא נחזור להילחם, חזרנו להילחם, ובגדול. אומרים לי, טוב, חיזבאללה יישב בשקט שנה-שנתיים, הוא יתעצם, ואחר כך הוא יתקוף אותנו. אבל חיזבאללה יפר את הפסקת האש לא רק אם הוא יירה עלינו, הוא יפר את ההסכם גם כשהוא ינסה להתחמש כדי לירות עלינו בעתיד. על כל הפרה שלו, נגיב בעוצמה.
The ceasefire, after Bibi's speech at 8 o'clock, the ceasefire was agreed upon and was voted, majority vote in the Israeli Security Cabinet, 10-1 majority vote to agree to this ceasefire with Lebanon. The agreement actually went into effect at 4 a.m. Wednesday morning, this morning, here in Israel. Parts of the ceasefire that were published by Channel News. I want to read a few of these stipulations that are very important for the ceasefire in Israel. The agreement stipulates that Hezbollah and any other armed groups in Lebanon will not carry out any offensive actions against Israel, and in return, Israel will not carry out any offensive military action against targets in Lebanon, including by land, air, and sea. Basically, this is saying that Hezbollah is not going to have any offensives against Israel, and Israel is not going to have any offensives against Hezbollah. In addition, Israel and Lebanon will recognize the importance of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which, I'll remind you, is the withdrawal of Hezbollah and other forces from Lebanon south of the Litani River, and the disarmament of Hezbollah and other armed groups, and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Lebanon. So Israel and Lebanon are supposed to recognize this Security Council resolution, which, by the way, was the resolution that ended the Second Lebanon War in 2006. So that was that was what was currently in place. Hezbollah never ever kept their side of the agreement. Israel did, though. Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon. Hezbollah was supposed to withdraw from south of the Litani River to create a buffer zone for the Lebanese forces to move in there. And then Hezbollah was also supposed to disarm. None of that ever happened. And even though the current ceasefire agreements, the one we're talking about now that happened just today, it stated that these obligations do not negate Israel's or Lebanon's inherent right to self-defense. So today's ceasefire agreement says, okay, this ceasefire agreement's going, this is what's going to happen, but they do not negate Israel's or Lebanon's inherent right to self-defense, which is interesting. They use the terms Lebanon here instead of Hezbollah, which Hezbollah has been a pain to Lebanon and they've basically been ruling Lebanon because they're so powerful inside of Lebanon, which is interesting that Israel is working with the government of Lebanon or negotiating the ceasefire with the government of Lebanon and not directly with Hezbollah. I don't know, maybe that's the only way it can happen diplomatically. But under the agreement, Israel, the current agreement I'm talking about, Israel will gradually withdraw its forces to the south of the Blue Line, which is the current Israeli-Hezbollah border, over a period of up to 60 days. The United States will simultaneously promote indirect negotiations between Israel and Lebanon in order to reach a recognized land border. So the ceasefire agreement is supposed to last 60 days. That's the time frame. So there is particularly an end date to this agreement, and the United States is supposed to promote indirect negotiations between Israel and Lebanon in the meantime. I have a question for you. Did you know that you can diversify your investments while supporting Israel at the same time? Israel is under attack by its enemies, and other nations are attempting to weaken her. So let me share with you a significant way you can strengthen Israel through investing. My family and I have been clients of the licensed investment firm Wise Money Israel for years. They are both friends and financial sponsors, and they manage Israeli stock and bond accounts for people around the world. You not only bless Israel by investing here, but can make a profit along the way. As Israel battles to hold on to their land, you support her by backing successful companies that power the economy and sustain the Jewish people. Wise Money Israel's professionals wisely invest your funds in the local market. Did you know that Israel's economy is one of the most resilient and innovative in the world? You can help at this critical time to restore Israel to the blessing God promised her. God promised that those who bless her will also be blessed. Be a part of what he is doing in our days to make Israel prosperous and a praise in all the earth. Align your finances with your faith, diversify your investments in currency, and partner with a firm of Israeli believers who share your values. For more information, see the description below. Don't bury your treasure, invest it in Israel. Visit wisemoneyisrael.com/theisraelguys and sign up for a free consultation today. That's wisemoneyisrael.com/theisraelguys, or click the link in the description below. So now that we discussed the main components of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon, I wanted to talk about I want to talk a little bit more about Netanyahu's press briefing to the public. Now, there are three main reasons that Netanyahu gave for a ceasefire now, particularly now, not in 2 months when they achieve more objectives, or not beforehand. The three reasons Netanyahu gave were Iran, rearming the IDF, and isolating Hamas. And I want to read you what he said.
התמקדות באיום האיראני, ולא ארחיב על כך. סיבה שנייה, רענון כוחות וחידוש מלאים. ואני אומר לכם בגלוי, כי זה לא סוד. היו עיכובים גדולים באספקת נשק וחימושים, והעיכוב הזה עומד להשתחרר בקרוב. נצטייד באמצעי לחימה מתקדמים שישמרו על חיי חיילינו, ויתנו לנו כוח מחץ נוסף להשלים את משימותינו. וסיבה שלישית להפסקת אש, ניתוק הזירה ובידוד החמאס. מהיום השני של המלחמה, החמאס בנה על חיזבאללה שילחם לצידו. וכשחיזבאללה מחוץ לתמונה, החמאס נותר לבד במערכה. הלחץ שלנו עליו יגבר, וזה יסייע למשימה הקדושה של שחרור חטופינו.
the three things Netanyahu gave as good reasons for the ceasefire to happen now is Iran. He obviously didn't elaborate on that. I don't know what Israel is planning, but obviously they have their eye on keeping Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, but then also rearming the IDF. Now, there's been many weapons delays from the U.S. particularly coming to Israel, and Israel is running low on some of their weaponry. But also his last point is very significant as well. Taking out the war in the north with Lebanon, or pausing it per se, that really isolates Hamas and is going to put intense pressure on Hamas down in the south. And hopefully, now Netanyahu did say this is my opinion, hopefully we'll be able to give Israel more leverage in either negotiating a hostage deal or convincing Hamas to surrender unconditionally. Now, here are the good and bad things about the ceasefire. So we talked about Netanyahu's speech. And by the way, I just want to say Netanyahu definitely won with giving a very powerful speech to the people of Israel. This is like public diplomacy 101 here, as far as talking to the Israeli public and making them feel good about what the government is doing in the ceasefire. The speech was amazing. We have the link for it down in the description below. I encourage you to go read that speech that Netanyahu made, but he did a very good job of explaining what was going on and the goals of the government. Previously hasn't always been the case here in Israel. When Israel makes big decisions, sometimes some of the public is left in the dark about the reasons or the actual details of what is actually happening. So I say good job to Netanyahu for making it very clear and putting the cards that he wants, at least, on the table for the Israeli public. Now, a few good things that this ceasefire is for Israel, I believe. Israel has made it very clear that it will respond forcefully if Hezbollah violates the ceasefire. Netanyahu is saying, if they fire a missile, we will respond. And in his whole speech, he named several things. Now, it doesn't seem like Israel is treating this like a long-term ceasefire, which is also good. For one, there's an end date. There's 60 days to the ceasefire, and Israel is still prohibiting the approximately 70,000 Israeli residents who have been displaced since the beginning of the war from returning to their homes in the north of Israel. Israel saying, no, you can't go back home yet because it's not safe. And that is another indicator that Israel may be planning to continue, or at least make sure that Hezbollah is going to follow the terms of the ceasefire agreement. Also, giving the IDF a break will enable Israel to rebuild, rearm, and focus on other major threats like Iran and Hamas, like we discussed before. Now, I want to talk about a few negatives, because there's many different opinions, especially here in Israel and the government, as to whether this is a good or bad deal for Israel. And obviously, there's always two sides to a coin. And I'm going to talk about a few of the negatives that this could mean for the nation of Israel. Now, first, just an indicator, this deal was mediated by the United States of America and France. Unfortunately, neither of which can really be trusted in making good deals for Israel right now. It does seem that Israel has been somewhat bullied into this deal by the U.S. administration, with recent weapons sales delays coming from the U.S. Biden administration has been pushing for a ceasefire for several weeks now, even months, but particularly the last several weeks. Also, America has apparently promised Israel complete freedom of action if Hezbollah violates the ceasefire agreement. Now, that is really good, but unfortunately, promises given to Israel by the current U.S. government lately have not really been trustworthy. Hezbollah has also already violated the ceasefire, surprise, surprise, by moving terrorists into a prohibited area just hours after the ceasefire started. Terrorists started moving towards the Israeli border. Israel's response was to fire a few warning shots in the air. The terrorists ran away. But I don't personally, if that's not a violation of the agreement, I'm not sure what is. Maybe it was a few rogue terrorists that didn't get the message that there was supposed to be a ceasefire agreement. Also, part of the agreement, another negative part of the agreement for Israel is it's for Israel to withdraw its forces from southern Lebanon. So instead of just declaring a ceasefire and Israel to stop fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, their agreement is to withdraw their forces from southern Lebanon. Now, if this ceasefire lasts the full 60 days without a violation by Hezbollah, which seems very unlikely, I think there's only actually a small chance that Israel will actually go back in, invade southern Lebanon again, and continue destroying Hezbollah. Regardless of what Israel has agreed to, let's pray that God will give the leaders of Israel the fortitude to remain strong in the face of all the evil that they are facing on so many fronts. Don't forget to check out Wise Money Israel. Click that link in the description below and start investing in Israel. Make sure to subscribe and let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what is happening here in Israel. We'll be back soon here at the Israel Guys.